While UFO encounters are often awe-inspiring, they can also be very disturbing.
What did I just witness, y'all?
Are these eerie visitors friends or foes? I'm going to tell you about some creepy and, in some cases, downright hostile behavior from alleged extraterrestrials. Fireworks on the 4th of July. My first disturbing story came to light via the History Channel show The Proof Is Out There. A viewer of the show from Chatsworth, California, captured video footage of strange lights in the sky during his 4th of July celebration. John Lopez observed the unidentified object whilst watching the local display from his backyard. He soon realized this wasn't part of the show.
It kind of looked like fireballs just floating around in the sky, and then like different ones kind of appeared out of nowhere.
Aiming his lens at the sky, he recorded the lights as they danced in the dark, hovering and flickering. Unusual, certainly, but disturbing? How so? Well, for starters, this wasn't the first time Lopez and his family had witnessed the lights. He'd seen them before. On July 4th, 2007, the previous year, the show consulted with a range of experts, such as journalist and author Alexis Brooks. She speculated that by letting off fireworks, mankind was potentially drawing attention to itself.
You wonder if the fireworks display may have actually attracted these anomalous objects to the scene.
The Proof Is Out There went on to mention the large number of UFO sightings reported on Independence Day. Even more worryingly, the footage was deemed to be convincing, without evidence of fakery. Could this be evidence of the galactic zoo theory, where alien beings fly down and get a ringside seat of our various activities? Or is it that one day our humble firework may inadvertently trigger a war with another world? The twins and the bald men. There's something about twins that's disturbing, am I right? Throw in unidentified flying object and you ramp up the spook factor several degrees. This story focuses on an alarming case involving two defenseless young children. Imagine being a kid and not wanting to go to bed because aliens would come get you in the night. That's the situation Audrey and Debbie Ewens reportedly found themselves in. And what's more, their parents didn't believe them. Living in Maine, the twins reportedly went up in a UFO numerous times. Audrey has described seeing a blue light with a misty quality, accompanied by two gray humanoid aliens with big heads. She and Debbie knew these unearthly visitors as the bald men. Starting from approximately the age of 5, the Ewens girls were allegedly visited, abducted, and experimented on by these unsettling out-of-towners. Audrey decided to talk openly about her encounters following a near-death experience, during which she was rescued from drowning by an entity. As is typical with such situations, the aliens go on to wipe the encounter from people's minds. More often than not, they don't seem to do a good job, as fragments of memory remain. Audrey recalls not only seeing her house from up in the sky, but the planet Earth itself. According to her, the ship she was in sort of evaporated, leaving her looking down on humanity from space. Not that the visitors' intentions were always creepy and hostile. As Debbie revealed later to Inside Edition, they actually proved to be a source of advice.
I've always had a twin sister to go through this together. When we were looking out, reaching for help, when stuff really started happening, my sister had an experience. The beings told her, you're gonna start a support group and you're gonna call it Starving Support. Next thing you know, we're up and going.
Of course, people wouldn't need support in the first place if the aliens hadn't landed and disturbed them. It's raining goop. Is there anything scarier than a weird and unexplained alien encounter? For sure. How about seeing a bunch of UFOs and getting covered in goop? Back in 1954, a football match happening in Florence, Italy. It takes something major to grab fans' attention whilst cheering on their teams, and this was truly an out-of-this-world interruption. Cigar-shaped object appeared in the sky, according to one eyewitness, though opinion varies on the shape and also speed of these UFOs. Anyhow, if that wasn't strange enough, then things were about to get seriously disturbing. Floating down, seemingly from the ships, was a white, almost candy floss-like material. It's often referred to in reports as angel hair. Not that this stuff was pure as the driven snow. Mind you, it did apparently melt away like snow does. A limited number of samples were collected and studied in a lab, though no one ultimately knows what this sky goop was. It didn't harm anyone, so that's something, I suppose. Indeed, the creepiest part of the situation came from an earthly explanation rather than a far-out one. What do I mean? Well, in attempting to establish what the angel hair actually was, it's speculated the white stuff was produced by spiders. Spiders migrate by sailing through the air on their own web. Flying spiders. Yikes, who knew? This theory has been discounted by some due to the lab results showing a different chemical makeup than that of spider webs. Meaning all of you arachnophobes out there can relax for now. Pascagoula Abduction. Sitting by the riverbank with your fishing rod is one of life's greatest pleasures. Surely, nothing bad could happen in this scenario, right? Well, guess again. In 1973, two fishermen found themselves being abducted by scary-looking alien. Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson probably figured they'd spend some quality time on the banks of Mississippi's Pascagoula River. An alleged extraterrestrial craft had other ideas. Parker went on to write a book about the disturbing encounter decades later. An 80-foot blue light, shaped like a football, and more alarmingly, hissing, appeared from behind the clouds. Why was it hissing? I really have no clue. But it makes the situation even weirder and scarier, doesn't it? When the aliens made themselves known, it was truly terrifying. These weren't little green men with cutesy voices looking to come in peace. They floated through the air and had a distinct lack of lower limb. What they did have, on the other hand, was, well, claws. Parker says the claws were shaped like mittens, and at one point they held him by the neck. One of the visitors was different from the others and seemed to be female.
And this more feminine-looking creature came out. She looked completely different than the what I call the robot, because he moved like a robot, just mechanical-wise. She looked kind of feminine-looking and had fingers, regular fingers, and all. Come over and pinched me on the side of the cheek.
Parker and Hickson were apparently sedated and transported aboard the craft. Here they were poked, prodded, and possibly worse, whilst being observed by a group of the aliens. Parker estimated them at 5 feet tall. He stated that a large, machine-like eye watched him as the experiments took place. This harmless fishing trip was now a fully fledged horror movie. When the fishermen were released, they reported their ordeal to the police. Authorities found their tale a little tall for their liking. However, a recording of Parker and Hickson made by cops when they left the room revealed it was a story they were sticking to. Seems these guys were telling the truth, at least as they saw it. Scotland attack. Scotland isn't the first place you think of when it comes to UFOs, but appearances can be deceptive. Turns out ETs have a disturbing and sometimes violent history when it comes to visiting the UK north of the border. In 1979, a man named Robert Taylor was confronted by an airborne metallic dome when out with his dog at Decmont Law in the county of West Lothian. A surprising enough sight on its own, for sure. However, Taylor was about to be attacked on all sides by apparent alien technology. Recalling the incident, he talked about a bad smell like burning brakes. He estimated the size of the dome as over 20 feet. Running round the outside was a line of propeller-like attachments. Then, Taylor was suddenly set upon by smaller, mine-shaped objects in the air, which according to him tried to get him aboard the UFO. At that point, the poor dog walker passed out. When he regained consciousness, he saw that his clothing had been ripped. He'd also suffered grazing on his chin and other areas. As is typical with such cases, Taylor went to the police, who treated this dramatic evidence as an assault investigation. Here's what makes Taylor's story particularly interesting, because up to that point, an alien encounter had not been treated as a criminal act. Bearing in mind his injuries, the local cops were out to bag a suspect, though if it was indeed aliens, then they weren't going to have much luck. The crime scene was analyzed, and ladder-like markings were spotted on the ground. It's said by some experts that based on the details, Taylor may have had an epileptic fit, hallucinating the dome and its foot soldiers. Plus, while there were strange markings on the ground, these could have been caused by other, more earthly things, such as a work crew. Hill's honeymoon incident. All things start somewhere, and the story of Barney and Betty Hills from New Hampshire signaled the beginning of UFO accounts as we know them. No one had heard anything quite like this before. What they went through was pretty disturbing. It didn't help that the encounter with alleged aliens took place during their long-awaited honeymoon in 1961. Things started getting strange when they embarked on the long road trip home to Portsmouth. They realized a light was following them along the twists and turns of the rural road. They really needed to stop and see what this thing was. Betty looked through her binoculars and reportedly made out a rotating object. When it became clear the ship, or whatever it was, wasn't going to give up the pursuit, Barney tried threatening it with his gun. To his alarm, he felt his mind being controlled and saw beings looking down on him from the object. The Hills then attempted to drive away, though the weird sound of bleeping appeared to emanate from the trunk of their car. Barney and Betty then woke up a couple of hours later, having covered a distance of 35 miles. They weren't sure what occurred, only that Barney's shoes were dirty and Betty's dress was torn. This was a case of missing time, underlined by the fact their watches had stopped working. Now that is disturbing. Not disturbed enough yet? Watch some of our other unnerving videos.